Welcome to Riverbend Talent on WBGZ, brought to you by the Halpin Music Company.
Riverbend Talent on the Big Z. I'm Dennis Laird, and joining me via video chat once again, folks. That's how we've been doing it lately. Is Rick Birdsong, and Rick originally from Bethalto, Illinois, and grew up in our area playing music, and eventually made his way down to Alabama as a psychologist. So I thought, hey, once again, two birds with one, or two stones with one birdie. What's Ricky say from Trailer Park Boys, right? So I thought, hey, why not have someone of our like and a psychologist combined come on and talk to us a little bit about some things we can do to help deal with cabin fever. And thanks for joining me, Rick.
Sure, it is. How you doing?
I'm doing real well, and just some insight on me and Rick's relationship, or Rick and I, sorry for my horrible English there, but Rick watched me grow up. He was best friends with my older brother, David, and so Rick knows me pretty well, and I'm sure you'll be able to pick up on that as we go along. But Rick, not your type of psychology. When you were working, what type of psychology were you into?
A lot of people call it forensic psychology, but that denotes forensic lab work, and it wasn't that. It was counseling for juvenile sex offenders. And after that, when I got down here, I was dealing more with sexual abuse victims and abuse victims in general, and just from everything from dysfunctional families to families with serious problems. I also worked a bit with mentally handicapped families and the specific problems there, and my specialization with a company called MACE for several years down here. But mostly I was in private practice down here for the past 10 years until I retired last year.
Now, that's interesting because mentally handicapped, you grew up with that, right? Your little brother.
Yeah, my brother Scott was mentally handicapped and still is, and taking care of him, and I miss him like all get out. I was supposed, when the COVID hit, I was supposed to be going down there to see you and them, and I really miss seeing them. But they seem to be safe and sound. They're keeping them isolated as they can.
And one thing you taught me about psychology is before you give any type of advice, you guys like to do research. So when I brought up cabin fever, you're like, hey, this will be fun. I haven't done research in a while. How about cabin fever, right?
Yeah, because, when you're in a certain part of the field that you specialize in and you have expertise in, you keep up with research, but you pretty much know. Because we don't fly by the seat of our pants very often. We're going to look and find out what the odds are, what the percentages are. If we say this, it'll help that. But it's been written that if you say this, it doesn't help that. And it's kind of a mathematical game that's going on in your head as to how you counsel what you say. So the cabin fever not being my field of expertise, I dug into it. And, man, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of interesting stuff about it. Hope I can say some things that help.
Yeah. And at the same time, you're right along learning technology like the rest of us. First time you've ever done a Facebook video chat, right?
Yeah, I'm not a big Facebook guy. People all around in my church and want me to get on here, other musicians, so we can show each other things rather than try to explain them. I've just never been real big on this. I got along with that for a long time. Plus, now that I'm quote-unquote retired, I own some rent houses. And I hang around and do a lot of work out there, so I'm on the road and busy with that. And I don't have a lot of time for things like video chats. Right. But this is neat. This is working out pretty cool.
Right, and it kind of leads into what we're talking about now. One thing I've noticed about the musicians I've talked to so far since this has happened, they've embraced it because they're seeing opportunities to do things they hadn't had a chance to do before because they are stopped working on that side. Of course, financially, they're worried just like everybody else because there's no place to play right now. And but I think that mindset of a musician is part of why it's a little bit easier for them, because they can take their creativeness and just funnel it in a different direction and basically keep doing what they do.
Yeah, that's the first thing you said is very important. You're not alone. Just because we're musicians, there's a lot of people out of work there who need it. Down here, it's bartenders, waitresses who make pretty good money, who are suddenly, that they work less than 40 hours a week. So they totally depend on those tips. And I know my son's had a lot of friends in that boat. And so you're not alone. It's difficult in that aspect, and there's just not a lot can be done about it, except try to wait about and make the best of it you can. And like I said, for musicians, we got a lot we can do. I mean, from the time I took up an instrument, I can't ever remember having a day where I was bored. There's always something to do. There's always something to improve. And those of us who pursue it as a lifetime achievement, we just can't get enough. We can't get good enough. We can't get to the point where we're satisfied. So now's the time to woodshed, folks. Now's the time to learn some more theory, expand your range on your instrument, get a little faster, learn a new genre of playing that you hadn't thought about before. You can get online and do some jamming, like I'm saying my church guys like to do. We like to just get on there and say, yeah, I'm going to play this part. You want to play this part? And, I have a band that we've done some recording and a little bit of playing out at coffee houses here, too, in addition to all the church music I do. And we've had to take a hiatus for this. What we're doing is we just all have our little 8-track recorders, digital recorders, and record songs and our ideas, and then upload them and send them to each other. So we kind of know where everybody's going, even though we don't get together on Friday nights. You can also catch up on your manuals and all the technology out there. Like I just learned how to get on Facebook and do a chat. That's a big achievement. I feel real good about that. And those little achievements, I mean, people, they need to incrementally get better at something. Well, that's the human nature. That's what's within us. And when you do, it's not like a video game, getting to that next step. We're driven to mastery. And for a musician, this is a good time to do that. It'll keep the depression away and keep the blues away. Unless, of course, you just want to play those blues all day long.
You finished my thought with that last part there. It's exactly what I thought is you were wrapping up. But, yeah, excellent advice. And like I said, I'm seeing a lot of the musicians embrace this, because one thing about playing all the time, and specifically playing out all the time, and I'm sure this translates to church, is you're constantly rehearsing something, which you enjoy doing, but it's also a task that you have to stay on top of, and it does not allow you time to just sit down and play whatever you want sometimes. So, I mean, this is finally a chance to say, you know what, put the work down and try something, whatever I feel like tonight.
It's been kind of strange. First thing I thought is like, man, I'm going to write a whole album's worth of songs if I'm in here for 6 weeks. And I haven't got one done yet. I've gotten a little bit of writer's block or stage fright when it comes to putting the recorder on. What am I going to play? And it's always, too, it's like with me, when I've got to set up my own technology, because usually we have the other guys set my mics up while I'm getting ready. When I got to set my own stuff up and I get it all ready to go, everything's tweaked, it's kind of like, what was that idea I was working on again?
Yeah.
So, there are those difficulties, but that all makes us better. We know we get faster when we get done with it, too.
Yeah, that's something we learned long ago, because we've had our studio for a long time now, that always have a buddy with you when you're ready to do some tracks, because someone to engineer that just allows you to keep focused on whatever idea or creation you're trying to come up with at the time.
I think, too, in whatever endeavor you're doing, I mean, if you're spending your time, whatever your art is, if you're spending your time painting at all, you can't paint all day long or you're going to burn out on it. You can burn out on anything. So I think take your time in your day and arrange it. Have a plan. Make sure you're on the same sleep schedule and the same eating schedule you're on. Watch your drinking. and watch your personal party, because musicians have a tendency to want to do that sometimes. This isn't a big 6-week vacation where you can end up in trouble and you're not going to get anything done, and you're just going to get more depressed. But I find that I plan my days. Okay, tomorrow I'm going to do this, and I plan with variety. Like I said, I've been taking a lot of time fixing up and doing some painting in my rent houses, but I don't do that all day long. I got a little time to do my music, a little record, and man, it's not going too bad. So far, so good. I feel so much for people who have a deeper concern than I do, and that they can't find the jobs. We're okay as far financially. A lot of people are. A lot of people are losing people. A lot of people losing their grandmothers, losing their babies. Can't get to a funeral. I can't make a funeral arrangement. So there's seriousness there, and know that there's help. Even though you can't go to your psychologist or your psychiatrist, know there's people you can call. The basic helpline will probably still direct you there. They're really busy. Siri just heard me talking. Shut up, Siri. But there is help out there, and it's it used to be it'd say it was in the phone book, but it's right on the internet. Just Google in your county and helpline and what the problem is, and they'll guide you to somebody. And the big thing right now with counseling is what we're doing right now, is trying to set up a chat. Back to music. I also know that some piano teachers, guitar teachers who are doing online chat guitar teaching and piano teaching to keep their funding flowing. Who knows? Maybe then someday we have little coffee house clubs with 8 musicians doing here where you can kind of pay for it. This looks like it's going to go on for a while, folks. So we got to get creative.
Yeah, our sponsor, Halpin Music Company, that's what they're doing with all their lessons now. They've figured out how to just shift over and do it online now, and they're even delivering their accessories. So if you need a new reed, they'll bring it to you. So yeah.
Yeah, when we're trying to isolate, when we're doing the do, and the only place I really need to go is the hardware store. So it's like, I spent a bunch of money at the hardware store, so I didn't have to go back and just get impossible stuff I might need. And my credit card company calls me up and says, did you spend all this money on one time in one place? Like, yeah, I kind of did. And groceries and hardware is the only place we've gone out to, so I think we're pretty good. Do the isolation. We have to do it for now.
I think for me personally, the part I've had to adjust to is over scatterbrain, because I'm trying to plan things and you just don't know what tomorrow brings, and so I'm sure a lot of people are going through that as well.
I love that term, over scatterbrain.
Yeah,
that's DSM right now. We got to start researching that. Jeff Beck would love it. Yeah, it is hard. It is hard, and I think anytime anybody's isolated, that's one of the things. It's like, what am I going to do with my time? We do this. Okay, well, now I've completed that, or I'm burned out on that. Next. And a better way to do it is in doses, if you can. And some of us are a little ADHD or a little scatterbrained anyway. And, well, you got to know yourself and who you are. The original term for cabin fever was actually prairie fever, and came from people who were socially isolated because their farms were so far away from everybody. And things would happen like, the chickens aren't laying the eggs they should. The goats have horns are a little longer than usual. Devils have horns. The goats are the devil. The devil's keeping the chicken from laying the eggs. I'm going to slaughter all my goats. And if somebody was there within, a mile or so to tell them, no, your feed's all wrong. There's nothing wrong with your goats. That was originally prairie fever, which later got called cabin fever. You don't want to get prairie fever in isolation. Now, I've worked a lot, too, with people in prisons and we've done a lot of workshops in prison. They are very concerned about this because they're having to keep their inmates in social isolation, as opposed to having that time outside, that time together. And in the jails, too, a lot of the inmates are in a dormitory style situation where they're sleeping in 3-tier bunk beds and things like that. And they're literally sleeping in closets to keep socially isolated. So there is that concern of a prairie fever kind of thing going on with them. Anybody who spends too much time in their own head without checking it out with anybody is at a risk of psychosis, even the toughest, most mentally healthy of us. So definitely check your thoughts and feelings out, people. I've got my wife here and my kids come over quite a bit. So, I've still got some social interaction. Even though it's not my favorite, online interaction can work very well.
Well, people being around, now there's one that's interesting as well, because now maybe you're around people more than you were before, and you actually are having a hard time finding space from that person to kind of regenerate. You know what I'm saying? Too much company, maybe.
That's a great point. Yeah. Too much of any good thing is too much of a good thing. I wonder too. Talking about some people I know, they are maybe enjoying this little time out too much. I think there are people too in that situation. We're getting paid for the next 2 weeks, so I've just got a paid vacation. What happens at the end of the paid vacation instead of preparing for that 2 weeks like they've got time for? These are difficult times. There's so many aspects that just are now coming out. And we talked before, it's amazing how people are handling this to me. And they're just handling it so well, and how they're being creative and finding ways to keep their minds focused on what they need to be focused on. Well, what happens a month from now? And when do people start with, I'm not staying inside anymore and going out? When they need to go out. Hopefully the virus will be running its course by then. But who knows? We could be in for a very long haul. And we're going to have to depend on each other. Although I'm getting a little tired of everybody on the radio with every other commercial saying, we're going to have to depend on each other. Please buy my cars. Please buy my insurance. Yeah. But, and beware. Beware. People are going to take advantage of this. The phone scammers are coming. The gougers are coming, beware, and try to take care of each other.
One thing our sponsor, Matt Van Boris, Macias Insurance, hasn't done yet, he just relies on me and Pigpen to come on here and make people laugh during this time, yeah.
It's sense of humor. When I was working with what some people might think very tough populations and tough subjects and tough things to work with all day, we depended so much on each other as therapists. And if somebody outside of the field would have walked in and heard what we were laughing at and going off about it, they'd think we were nuts or sadists or something like that. But you have, in the worst of situations, you've got to develop a sense of humor about it. It's natural to laugh. It's natural to cry. It's natural to have a whole gamut of emotions. And as long as there's no one absent or no one predominating, you're in a mentally healthy situation. When one does predominate or one is absent, that's when you're at risk of mental health situations.
Let's talk about fear in general. Lots of fear coming at us from the media. I mean, we're kind of used to that, though, bad things every time you turn on the news. But now it's something that can affect us personally every single day, the bad news, right? As opposed to, well, this guy got shot over here on such and such street, right? Now it's something that's right on top of us, and everybody's in a little bit of fear, and they're reacting off of that fear as well, and not really a healthy thing to do, I don't think.
Yeah, and I live in the South, where paranoia is an armchair philosophy that a lot of people embrace pretty quickly. I told you before in some of our conversations that Friday, that this outbreak really broke out, and they overkilled everything horribly. They were putting on the news and the news internet sites martial law and how to do martial law, and that the troops were coming and the tanks were going to be in the street, and when the shooting starts, you should board up your windows, these sort of ways, just jumping off into the extreme. Folks, it's not that bad yet. It's probably not going to get that bad. If you have a propensity toward paranoia, if you have a propensity to not see things exactly out there as they are in reality, or, if the aliens are at your front door and the lizard people are common when what you think normally, being isolated is only going to make that worse, and you need to reach out and try to see what's real. People, you don't have to watch the news about coronavirus all day long, even though now maybe you've got all day long. And I recommend, you can get what you need to know on the evening news, and that's really all you need. And that will help allay the fears, I think, a whole lot. And the main thing with anything when you're in a fearful situation is do something. Find something to do that's got nothing to do with it. Musicians, we have a whole lot to do.
Let's go back to this, the part there. Get what you need to know from the media. So they're gonna come on and they're gonna give you this big number of people that are dying and affected by this. That's good information, but we don't really need that information. What we need is the latest thing that's come down that we now have to do to prevent this. That's the information we're looking for, right? Something we can take from the information and use to help this thing.
Yeah, and it's amazing. We're not really getting that. We get our 5 specifics, but people want to know what common sense might tell you. What the things they can do, and now we're finding out, well, there's a lot more we can do other than just wash our hands and socially isolate to try to keep from getting this. And there's always that question too, that is this thing evolving? Is it going to evolve beyond being able to wash our hands or be at a distance? Either way, the locus is control. Can I control what a virus does? No, you can't. All right. And realizing that reality is a key word. What's real is here's what you can do and here's what you can't. And we're people. We want to be in control. It's human nature. We want to be able to fix this thing. We said we're problem solvers. We have this. What makes us different from the animals. And you're in a situation where it's a problem that really can't be solved, and there's not much we do unless we're an epidemiologist, or having our ideas or creativity imagination can only protect ourselves. Realize that that's all you can do is protect yourself. And sometimes you got to stop your mind from going places you don't want it to go. And we do a lot of that work with in the criminal justice system. We talk about visualizations. Okay, I'm going there again. I'm scared about, this is going to come and this is going to get me. And visualize something pleasant. Visualize something you like. Visualize a hamburger would work for me. Visualize something that you want to be. There's also something psychologists use called a systemic desensitization. You can get some online. They're just relaxation techniques where you can start to concentrate from your head and go down to every part of your body, your toe, concentrate on it until it relaxes, until you're in a state of total relaxation. Into yoga, if you're into meditation, hey, you got this stuff, Now's the time to break that stuff out.
And if you're not into something and you've always been interested, hey, now's the time, folks. Maybe yoga's what you want to try.
Do what you did, make you feel better, Whatever gets you through the nines, John Lennon said. Just again, I caution, don't start drinking more, don't start doing more than what you normally do, than what you can do. And I worry about those guys too. I've known some people on the color code for a long time who the color code people are testing for the next 6 weeks. And, I can imagine some of those offenders, yoo-hoo! And,
well,
you gotta watch this.
Yeah, well, it's what we do when we relax. And now we're at home constantly relaxed. And like you said, don't turn it into a vacation. Keep in mind that, you would normally be at work and use that time to maybe get something positive done as well. Well said, exactly. Okay, well, appreciate you joining us and diving into the psychology side with you, which I've hardly ever done in my life with you. We normally talk baseball or music. And so what are you doing music-wise? I know the church is shut down for now, I guess. You
Well,
talked about rehearsing online a little bit, and you're a writer as well. So I guess you're doing some writing?
yes, not as much as I like to. Once I get the painting catched up on another thing, because I've just been. Oh, and another thing, you got to do something physically. Do something physically. Don't be sedentary. And this has got me doing some things physically, which I want to keep doing right now. Taking a little weight off. I'm feeling pretty good about that. So, yeah, but I'm going to write a new story. I don't write a new story during the coronavirus. I'm not a writer at all.
Yeah.
At least a short story or start some kind of ideas. Man, the ideas are starting to pop again. One of the nice things about isolation is solitude can be the school of genius. The ideas they don't pop out while I'm painting my trim on my gutters. Yeah, I'll be doing some things like that. And the church is interesting. Some of the other guys are having a much harder time with it than I am. And it has amazed me that the difficulties they've been having. You and I both know that gigging gets into your heart and into your blood. And when you take that away, that weekly outlet of getting up in front of a bunch of people and getting that communication with your playing or your singing to them, and they suddenly take that away because all musicians have the time when suddenly take it away for one reason or another, that it's heartbreaking, and it can be heartbreaking. What they do and what they're doing is reaching out to other church musicians and talking about it. And being a church, we're used to doing that anyway, reaching out to problems. Our church has been pretty good about it, an online outreach ministry anyway, going to places like homeless shelters and where they can see on screen and doing online counseling, online ministry, and those sort of things.
So tell us about your band real quick.
The band is Count the Nine. My what?
The band name. Give us a name. And
the band name is Count the Nine, which was pretty much named when you count the 9, it's time to go get another 12-pack. And we do non-alcoholic gigs at coffee houses around here, but mainly the gigs are acoustic, and we're old. We can't carry a lot of equipment around anymore, so we do a very scaled down, unplugged show. And then when we write on Friday nights, the times we don't gig, we're writing some prog rock kind of things.
Cool.
And they're really getting into electric things. And we took time off gigging, which we do now and then, say we're going to finish the CD, and we go off in different directions, right? So we're getting a lot of stuff in the can, so to speak. And I think
nice.
It won't be long. A new CD will be coming out for Count Them Nine. For many years, we were Modern Fossils. Before that, we just did change the name not too long ago. Just something about another band being named Modern Fossils who had a hard time being reliable, and we didn't want to be related to that.
Right.
But it's really going pretty good. It gives me a great creative outlet.
That's new information. That's new information to me. I've always known you guys as Modern Fossils, so it's the same guys. And the new name.
Well, we don't even know what we're going to call this for the CD. It still might be Modern Fossils. When we were going out to play our acoustic thing, we called it CT9 or Count Them Nine. But the gig might still be Modern Fossils. Like I said, there was somebody else decided to call them that, was coming down here from Tennessee, and they were canceling on people. So, are you those guys? So it was kind of changed down to necessity.
Yeah, unfortunately.
The music stuff's going great. And sometimes I feel really bad from this end going like, hey, my life's real great right now. We've grown and all. And man, 25% of us out there, and it's going to grow to about half of us. It ain't okay. Right. And I want to reach out. I want to help. As in, this can break you, or this can make you. Right. And I want to help it make you. Everybody wants to help it make you. And I think people in general want that. Or at least for the next couple of months, we're going to see what happens as it goes.
Give the rest of the band a shout out. Tell us the members.
Craig Bomey and Matthew Bomey, father-son duo. Craig and I have been Modern Fossils for I don't know how many years, and his son started playing with us. I mean, there have been literally 50 musicians going in and out of the band, but his son started playing with us about 7 years ago now, and he's a fabulous drummer. He's way over our heads as a musician. Great guitar player, great musician all the way around. And the guy who understands Pro Tools, you know,
right.
The guy who can run the technology. We're dead in the water with that. And Craig and I have already said that, you know, Matt would go on for some reason or another. We just have to get our acoustics out and go play acoustics all day. So we can't understand all this technology. Mm-hmm. We're keeping up with it. We're learning. But a lot of that's because you got a guy to call up and say, hey, what do I do?
Yeah.
I love those guys, and I think we'll be doing it until we drop.
Right. Do you guys have a website or anything?
Count Them Nine on Facebook.
Okay. There we go.
Count Them Nine on Facebook. Modern Fossils. I had, Matt was taking care of that site. I don't know if he's keeping up with it or not.
Okay.
And I have a website on, if you Google in my Modern Fossils, it should come up. And I haven't updated that in a while. But that kind of is just a history of the band. And because it is interesting how it started out in the St. Louis area and how it started out and to how it's gotten where it's at now. Yeah, especially with the big move south.
Yeah, and unplanned by both of you, right? You just kind of ended up at the same place, same time, right?
Yeah. You know, my wife works for the federal government and was moved back here, and so does Craig. And they were both moved down here. And say, man, because for about 2 years there, we weren't. Craig had left Modern Fossils. He was playing with another band that was highly successful in and of itself. And Modern Fossils was still going strong when I moved. And then when I moved, they went ahead and changed the name of the band. And we're like, well, what do we want to call it? And the drummer we had down here was in Craig's old band, said, I like Modern Fossils. Let's just go ahead and keep going with that. So I kind of looked at the whole thing as one big string that started many years ago. I like to think, too, back when Dave, your brother, and I started our first band, you know, it's like sophomores in high school, that it's all been one big band. You know, people come in and out. I stop from one, I get a call from somebody else, hey, you want to play? And it's been one big stream of musicians going in and out.
Mm-hmm. For those that don't remember, Rick Birdsong was my very first guest on Riverbend Talent. I thought, if I'm going to interview anybody, I'm going to get someone real close to me that can put up with all my nonsense. So, and
my family just freaked out on that interview. I don't know how many people heard it, but the right people heard it, and they're like, that was just the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah, because I put you up on the table or on the couch and dug deep, didn't I?
I hadn't thought of some of those things in so many years, you know. But it's a long history. And, hey, you know, if you're looking for something to do and you're going crazy, buy yourself a banjo, man. You know, ukulele, have somebody deliver it, and just learn an instrument, man. There's no greater joy. Or, like I said, I don't know any musician who's bored.
I'm biased, but I would recommend Halpin Music to take care of those things. You know, hey,
I bought a lot of stuff from them over the years.
Yeah,
I remember those guys.
All right, Rick. Well, I appreciate it very much checking in with us and some great advice. Thanks for taking the time to do the research, and it's been a joy.
Okay, man. Maybe put some stuff up on your Facebook page about list some of these things that might be able to help.
Yeah, cool.
Just as we go along. Okay, thanks, Dennis.
All right, that's Rick Birdsong. You're listening to Riverbend Talent, brought to you by the Halpin Music Company and by Mr. Matt Van Forest of Macias Insurance.